Hello, welcome back. This is video 4 of 6 on how I mix drums. Today we are covering the toms. Every video in this series builds upon the last video, so if you haven't watched the previous 3 videos, please go back, watch all of those. They're super informative and helpful. But assuming that everyone is all caught up, let's dive into how I mix toms. Okay, in the same vein as the snare drum, I am going to EQ, compress, look at tape, and then go back and gate. But an extra little tidbit of information here, and this is something that happens in productions a lot. I didn't do this, but I do this when I record the drums myself too. So these are my kick channels, these are my snare channels. You can see all this bleed in between the snare drums here. This is the kick drum hitting and cymbals and stuff like that. On my tom tracks, you'll notice there's big moments where there's no hits at all. So like this is the snare drum firing, but it doesn't show up in the tom track. The producer who produced this session cut all of that space out in between the tom hits manually, just by clicking and dragging and deleting and making fades like that. I also do that. The toms are tricky to gate. And I'm still going to put gates on them after the fact, but if you'll notice, if I just solo up this rack tom, it already goes away because that space has been manually cut out. And I highly suggest doing that if you don't do that, because it's going to get you a long way forward on killing the bleed in your toms, which is a big problem if you don't know how to deal with it. If you want to find out what it's like to have your music professionally mastered for 0 risk and $0, all you have to do is click the link in the description below to get a free test master from me. Okay, so let's dive in. This is a tom section, so it's going to be good for EQing these toms here. Again, just looking for the boxy part of the signal. We're going to ditch that. So that's taking up a lot of space. Maybe a little higher. That sounds pretty cool. Might actually add a little bit of low end to this. Okay, cool. Let's get it into the Distressor. Same concept as the rest of my drum inputs. We're just trying to shave off and control a little bit of those hotter peaks. I'm actually going to use my snare drum Distressor and just see what that does. Let's see what that's like. So it's a little much, but again, we're slow attack, fast release. I'm gonna shave just a little bit less off. But let's listen to it before and after. So this is bypassed. And then in. It's not a huge difference, but it does bring that drum forward, and I'm noticing heavier hits, which is what I'm going for here. Let's check tape. The snare drum, we just use this default setting. Let's see if this kick drum tape sounds cool on my toms. No, I don't love it. I feel like I lose in energy. So I'm just going to go back to this default. That's snappier and more aggressive and alive. So I'm going to stay there. Let's put a gate on this. Let's go silencer. Tom preset. Bypassed. I don't have words for it. It's amazing. It's very simple to use. If you don't have this gate, you have to get this gate. It's the best one. It's the best one for drums. Okay, that is my rack tom. Let's listen to the floor tom. Signal's getting a little quiet here. You can notice on this floor tom channel. I'm just going to turn up the output of this EQ to get a little bit more signal back. If we go all the way to a wide bell, we cut energy out of the drums. So we're going to push that smaller The other drum comes back. Cool. Let's use the same compressor that we used on the rack tom. Let's check that we're doing about the same. Let's push this floor a little harder. It's really quite exciting what this Distressor does to it. It just attacks it so hard and gives it so much energy. Makes the drummer sound like he's hitting harder than he is. And I love that we can do that with a compressor. It's super, super cool. And we're just going to keep this tape that we're already using on the rack tom. We're going to go ahead and put a gate on this floor tom. Okay, what I don't like is that I'm losing the space in between. So if we bypass this gate, there's the note sustains through the space where it's not being struck. If I put this gate on, it's tight. It closes too fast. So I'm going to change the length that this gate holds on. We've put a bit of it back there. We're still losing just, I would say, a touch of that decay, but I would argue that in the context of the mix, with everything else that's going to be happening while these toms are being played, you're not going to hear that lowest bit of decay anyway, and I'm happy to make the sacrifice in losing that little bit of decay to ditch all of the cymbal energy. So we're going to leave it like that. And if we decide later that we want to come back and modify it, we always can. That's the beautiful thing about mixing in the modern digital age. So the only thing left that I'm going to do is I'm going to put the pans back. So we got the rack that I had out 45, which is pretty typical in terms of panning for me. I'm going to put this floor out 80. Then I'm just going to turn my tom group on, bring the kick and snare back in, and push these in. Boom. That's how I mix toms.